Hellraiser, a franchise known by many and spanning 8 movies and one unfunny novelty piece, starting in 1987 and continuing to this day, giving us one of horror's most identifiable mascots along with a legion of emo fanboys who use stills from the film they've never seen to show how dark and tortured they are. The first installment was written and directed by Clive Barker, who also wrote the novella The Hellbound Heart, upon which it is based in 1987. The film engrossed audiences with a unique plot revolving around family tragedy and a box summoning demons, and also with a chilling atmosphere and a memorable cast of villains. The special effects were also a high point. Well, most of the time. This is even more impressive when you see the budget for this movie was only about $1 million. The resurrection scene and Skinless Frank still look amazing, plus the Cenobites and their BDSM crossed with religious garments and various disfigurements are still unsettling when they appear on the screen, unlike most other horror movie icons from this era.
You're a dead meat slime bag! Yo man, it's cool, man, it's cool.
For the sequel, Clive Barker took more of a backseat role as an executive producer. He would become less and less involved with the movies as the series went on, to the point where now he's just announcing it on Twitter. Barker entrusted Hellbound to Tony Randall, who worked on editing of the first film, and despite a lack of directing experience, Hellraiser II is a strong follow-up in my opinion, building and expanding on the lore and origins of the Cenobites, while still playing to the audience's imagination, as opposed to fully revealing them. Plus, it was still sporting some impressive special effects. Again, most of the time.
Baby born, baby born.
While absent of a strong narrative, it still stands as a solid follow-up to the hype of the first film, maintaining the strong atmosphere of the original. And after Hellraiser 2, the series went downhill to fuck, shit, horrible, even worse. And then eventually China. Hellraiser 3 and 4 wrapped up the primary narrative and went with the typical horror movie progression of going to Manhattan and then Hellraiser in space. Just thank God Pinhead never had to do a rap scene in the hood.
I come from the land of the Irish Spring. Dublin's the place where I learned.
No! God, please, no!
Hellraiser 4 provided a definitive ending for the series by destroying the horrible, horrific box with an even bigger box! But the series couldn't be left there. The next 4 movies didn't even start as Hellraiser movies. They were just horror scripts that Dimension had floating around that they just slapped Pinhead and a puzzle box into in the hopes it would make money. The 9th installment, Hellraiser Revelations, was the first to be initially conceived as a Hellraiser since 1996, but was only made because Dimension was about to lose the rights to the Hellraiser franchise. Thus, Hellraiser Revelations was given 3 weeks total production time. The rapid production time also resulted in this being the first ever Hellraiser movie to not feature renowned horror actor Doug Bradley as the iconic lead. So I'll concentrate on Hellraiser 3 because Hellraiser 4 doesn't really feel like a Hellraiser movie. This was again written by Peter Atkins and was directed by Anthony Hickoy, who is known for the Waxwork series and some action movies with the most generic titles I've ever heard, like Stormcatcher, Last Run, Federal Protection, and Blast, because apparently Boom and Tits were taken already. The story of this installment involves Pinhead being split into 2 after his death in the first sequel. His human half and his evil half, you could say, even though his human half turns into this because he's a dick, but whatever. So this evil half is stuck in the pillar from the last movie, which looks completely different now for some reason, but who cares. Anyways, he is eventually freed by a nightclub owner and proceeds to create hell on Earth. Meanwhile, Yaron from Deep Space Nine is investigating the deaths surrounding the puzzle box and ends up teaming up with Pinhead's human half to stop him. The main problem with this movie is that it's just become the exact thing the previous 2 tried to avoid, a typical American slasher. The first Hellraiser came out 9 years after John Carpenter's Halloween popularized the subgenre and began to dominate this genre. Hellraiser didn't use a masked villain with some kind of blade jumping in front of the camera for its horror, but instead created a creepy atmosphere to make the audience uneasy. Do you think they kept that work ethic in Hellraiser 3?
Ready for your close-up, Joey?
Well, what the fuck do you think? No. Instead, the oh-so-dignified and intriguingly complex Pinhead is now a cliched jackass who goes around spouting cringeworthy shite whenever he kills someone.
Jesus Christ! Not quite.
The movie tries to explain this away with some exposition about how, without his human half, he has no order and doesn't follow the rules he had in the past.
What I was is out there in your world. Unbound,
unstoppable.
I guess this is him being rebellious in his teenage years. Does he just spend his free time blasting Motorhead music out of his bedroom then? But he is still driven to specifically torture people, including the main character, so it kind of contradicts itself. Plus, this isn't the only case where the exposition just gives a quick excuse and moves on. Like, when Pinhead knows what Joey dreams about, the reason given is...
Human dreams. Such fertile ground for sowing the seeds of torment.
Which is fancy way of saying cause he can, and when the human half of Pinhead talks to her through the TV from limbo, and then she goes to limbo by walking into the sliding glass door, which doesn't even get a half-assed excuse. There's a difference between being vague to play to the audience's imagination and just general laziness in script writing. Also, none of this is helped by the bizarre cinematography. In any sequel, it's important to mimic the style of the original as closely as possible, unless you have a reason not to. In Hellraiser 3, the cinematographers seem to have some sort of fetish for those wide-angle shots taken way too close to the face. I don't get it, why are they here? I understand the purpose is to convey an uneasy tone, but Christ! This was never in any of the first movies, it just comes out of left field. I feel like Pinhead is about to try and escape this movie. Not that I can blame him. The soundtrack is also complete shite, as if you could expect anything else. Gone is the brilliant music of Christopher Young, and now we have yet more cliche and uninspired crap. That's not all that's wrong with this movie. The Cenobites, holy shit, are their designs terrible. I mean, the first ones had some clever little subtle hints towards their personality in a previous life, but here they're so fucking insultingly obnoxious. Look, this guy has a camera. His personality is, therefore, camera. Therefore, he has a camera in his head. This girl had a cigarette in every scene, so we'll put a cigarette in her neck, and it'll be hilarious. I'm sure they had to pull a few all-nighters coming up with these designs. I'm guessing Butterball must have been Kim Kardashian in a past life. Just thank Christ Ian Watkins never became a Cenobite. So they fucked up the villains, but the main characters must be at least half decent, right? Well, the main character is Joey, who is a reporter that's bored of doing small-time stories and is at the hospital reporting on...
This is Joey Summerskill for Channel 8, Emergency Room. Very bored. No story, no life.
Nothing. But what do you know? A big story comes crashing through the door as some random guy is rushed into the ER and is murdered by some paranormal chains. And instead of going, holy shit, that guy's head just fucking exploded! And maybe I should interview the staff, who just saw some major paranormal bullshit and have the biggest news story since ever. She's like, I wonder what's up with this box. Her backstory goes as far as her dad died in Vietnam and she constantly has dreams about him getting cut down platoon style. If that's all the development the main characters get, then the secondary characters stand no chance. Her sort of sidekick, investigator Terry, is, I'm guessing, supposed to be a sympathetic character because she's homeless and was used by the nightclub owner, but her big characteristic is she can't dream, for reasons unexplained.
Just, I don't dream. Never have. Maybe it'd help if I slept sometime.
I mean, boo fucking who, you could spin a real fucking sad story as to why she's homeless, but no, not dreaming. Everybody in the audience will form an instant bond with this character. It'll be so sad when she dies off screen and shows up for like 2 minutes towards the end. They'll have to put a box of tissues beside each seat. The last major character is supposed to replace Uncle Frank or Julia as the villain other than Pinhead. JP is the nightclub owner who frees Pinhead, as he uses club goers for sex then doesn't call them. So grade A bad guy material. Plus he's really into weird BDSM art and decorates the nightclub with it. You know, because the other movies had undertones of sadomasochism, but subtlety is lost on this movie. And I know the characters before this weren't the most three-dimensional ever to be shown on screen, but they were a hell of a lot better than this. So is the movie completely without value? Well, Pinhead almost sounds like his old self in scenes like the church and the limbo scenes were a good way to bring exposition to the foreground without really breaking the flow of the movie, even if they aren't explained. So that's Hellraiser 3. Ultimately, you know a movie can't be that good when the memorable part isn't the bad guy, the characters, or the dialogue, but the Motorhead song that plays over the credits. The franchise, however, may get a second chance, as Clive Barker said he's working on a remake of the first and is pushing for the use of practical effects, so to bring back the series to its roots that made the first two so memorable. As Pinhead put it himself,
I cannot die. I am forever.
but wait! There were 5 straight-to-DVD movies after the original 4 theatrical releases. Once again, we'll turn to Pinhead to give our opinion.
Welcome to hell.